What's funny about this subject is we decided to jump in with this particular category before the world changed like it did. Many of us went to sleep in one world and woke up in another, where remote is not just a strange and interesting beast, it is the way we have to get things done. It's how business is continuing. So I hope that this actually helps everybody out. And my goal here is to sort of explain a little bit about remote work and motivate you to understand something that I've been doing for a good while now. So, remote only work. This slide was way more impressive when fewer people did it. But sure, yeah, that's exactly right. I work remotely. I've been doing it for, I think, 6 years now. And I think that there are people out there, obviously, who've been doing it much longer than me, but you learn a lot in 6 years. And that's some of the stuff, especially in managing people remote um, and managing yourself remote. You learn a lot. So, who am I? 6 years remote. My name's Gant Laborde. I work with a great company called Infinite Red, where we do 100% remote consulting in web and mobile. Our dev teams all over the US. And every so often, we have a few people in Canada. Shh. And so we really do get to enjoy ourselves quite a bit. That's all over the US. Feels like it's not very, very diverse. Now, also, we do have people that we work with and companies that we work with all around the world, though. We've done things for people in Sweden. We actually have one contract. We have contractors from around the world, and they travel. The barriers are all gone. The way we do things, it is people all over the world, all the time. Our biggest selling point is that most of our employees are US based. And those of you who've worked with overseas, especially people who don't know how to do remote work, you might say, oh, I see why you are mostly in the US. But we're a fantastic working team. We're listed on Facebook's help page. We work with React Native. It's really been a strong community that we have for 100% remote. So my biggest message is that, yeah, remote work works. It's not just a fad. It's not just a thing that we're doing right now. It's not a thing that's going to go away when all this changes. I think that remote work is somewhat our future. And I'm willing to really kind of express quite a few points on that. Being able to work remotely is a soft skill that people need to learn. It's just like presenting in these environments. You actually have to figure out a few things and learn a bit more. And I think that makes it fun. So I want to keep the energy up and just like I know I'm the last presentation, so I'll just keep everything exciting and fun for today. So I want to talk for a moment. Not everybody might be on board. So why remote work works and what are the risks and what are the rewards for something like this? And I want to bring this, and some of you might know this problem. It's called the candle problem. And it was invented by Carl Dunker and is published 1945 posthumously. But this is a really interesting problem. And if you're a Dan Pink fan, you know this problem already. If not, it's okay. It's a great experience to see someone actually learn about Carl Dunker for the first time. So I'm going to present you with this problem that he presented people with. You have a book of matches, you have a box of thumbtacks, and you have a candle. Your endeavor here is to attach to attach the candle to a cork board in a way that when you light it, none of the wax will fall to the desk below. And so people get this problem and they try tacking the candle up to the cork board and it doesn't go all the way through. They tried making a little ledge with it. They try figuring out different ways to balance the candle. And some of you are trying to solve this problem right now. But I'm going to give you the solution. Ultimately, after any amount of time, people figure out that the box that the tacks are in are something that you can use. So you tack the box to the wall, to the corkboard, put the candle inside the box, and then light it, and none of the wax will fall down to the bottom. And so this is a really fun, creative problem. The trick of this is that it is 100% creative. And so what I actually want to say is the reason I wanted to bring that up is because they did an extra part of this experiment. And actually, I'll go back to that slide for a second because it really does hammer it in to see his original diagrams. When they incentivized people like this was a job to get it done as fast as possible and pay them appropriately to how fast they solve that problem, the people who were incentivized financially to do this task did it slower than the people who were just having fun. So if I said, here's the problem, go ahead and solve it, and I timed you, you would solve that problem faster than actually a person who I said, I'm going to give you $100 if you can solve this in the next 30 seconds. And so the strange thing that's happened here is that when Carl Dunker did this, we had the Industrial Revolution. Your job was to take this gear in a physical location and spin it and make sure you took this product from point A to point B. You were a meat robot, and giving you more money made you do things better. That's not the world we live in anymore. We are living in a world of candle problems, and we need to figure out how to work smarter and not to just incentivize people to work harder. And so I want to say, should you be a remote company, or should you start making the company remote? I think there are 3 key aspects to this. 1, are you remote possible? That means 1/3 of all jobs can be remote as of right now. So that immediately actually makes, you can't be a remote working garbage man, or you can't be a remote work, store clerk. It's just not where we are. So the first thing is the profession and is the job capable of being remote? Secondly, are all decisions made remotely, or the key decisions made remotely? Now, if you were like me and you had some remote workers and some non-remote workers, then the people who were remote workers either had all kinds of power that they hoarded, and that's what gave them that capability, or they decided to go remote and they lost power. And why is that? It's because the people who had the knowledge or made the decisions were they remote. If they are remote, congratulations, I actually call you a remote company. But if there's an office where people can come in half the week, but there's an actual room where people go into and they close the door and that's where the decisions are made, you really are half into remote. And therefore, I don't think that that's a remote company. So the key thing is, are the decisions made in the same remote framework that is happening there? So if you're leading, or if you wanted to kick off a remote company tomorrow, just remember, you can't have your buddy out for coffee and making the decisions there. You have to have a remote possible job, and you have to have a remote decision-making branch and have all the decisions actually go through the remote process. And then the last part, and this is the part that kind of comes back to Carl Dunker. Is your business powered by knowledge workers? Do you have creative problems that need to be solved? If so, then giving them the candle problem the right way, giving them the space and the ability to not feel pressured and focus narrowly on something, but to actually look at it from a broad perspective and be creative. And that's the key thing. The happy, creative team, I think the best way to do that is a remote team. And that's today's workforce. That's the problems that we see every day. Take a look at Blockbuster. You know, somebody's life was sitting there rewinding tapes and making sure people didn't steal stuff. And that's gone away. And everybody's happy. Well, most people are happy that we went from Blockbuster to Netflix. And I'm happy about that. But in a way that's changed the job. That's changed the avenue of how everybody works. And there's a lot of jobs at Netflix, and the quality of life of human beings has gone up. And so we need to be creative. So knowledge workers are the people I'm talking about. They need control. They need to own their tools, and they need a creative space where they can be happy. So I'd say if you have these three things, you are remote possible. You can make all the decisions remotely, and you're powered by knowledge workers, then a remote-based business is a no-brainer. That's a fantastic opportunity for you. Now, these things do come with interesting avenues, but I have this other experiment I want to go over. So here's an unpaid experiment where you're placed in a box with levers, switches, knobs, and controls for 1 hour. And you have to manipulate these controls correctly. And if you make too large of a mistake, you die. This is part of this experiment. You will actually die. And other people around you will die. And you have to do this experiment daily. How many of you would sign up for that experiment? And in a weird way, this is what we do every day, unpaid, commuting to our jobs so that we can co-locate in these workspaces where people actually just do work that they could be doing remotely. This isn't my analogy. Someone actually said it to me at a conference once. I can't attribute it to them because I forgot. It was just such a great comment. I focused on that instead of who they were. But I'm passing it on to you. I do not deserve credit for this. But this sort of experiment, this sort of way of like identifying this wild thing, every day people are taking their hands and they're worried about what they're going to do with their life. And that's to a job where they're listening to a podcast. My commute as a remote worker is from my kitchen to my office, and I love it. It's going to be really hard for me to ever trade something like that in. So I think I've made the statement here. Remote work is a great initiative, right? So how would you get started working remotely? If you like this and it fits, what do you need? I think there are two major pieces. And these are the things that are tricky. One, you have to worry about humanity. And two, you have to lean into the tech. You're already at some strange disadvantage in the humanity that you don't know about because, well, it's more distant, right? I think a lot of us are starting to feel this quarantine fever that's happening because of the world we're living in. And some of us who've been doing remote work for a while already have some mechanisms to handle exactly that, because when someone starts remote work for the first 6 months, if they've never done it before, they've kind of got to figure that out. They got to figure out whether or not they can break that quarantine fever, figure out a way around it or not. And the tools for doing that are the tech. So I'm going to go into both of those real quick. Step one, the humanity. Making happy humans. That's a key part. So let's take a look at your normal commuting job, right? You are next to people. You see people. You hear them. They release social chemicals. You can build these indirect relationships. And when you're through this wire, when we're through this sort of conference call that we're all talking to one another, I have to amp things up as much as I can because I'm being dampened by this sort of inability for you to take in me and the screen at the same time. We're not at a conference, we're at a virtual conference. So I think that that's a good idea, and that's why I add all the sound effects that I add.
Wow.
So I want to give you 3 do's and don'ts for the humans. And these matter in communication, the remote aspect, and the humanity of it all. So one of the do's, okay, this is a total do for when you're actually working together, is to elevate communication and clarity. So if we have a miscommunication, you need to go to a higher bandwidth communication. What does that mean? I send you a message and it seems combative or you feel defensive. Step one, immediately bring it up to a higher communication. Maybe bring into a sound chat or go to DMs or go to a video chat with me. And that's important because we need to elevate those immediately. You can get bitten pretty hard by someone not actually understanding the tone of your message and reading it the wrong way. This is why emoji are so genius. I know people love to make fun of Gen Y, or they love to make fun of millennials for emoji. No. That's correct. Giving the inclination of the message in a way that is super crystal clear is very, very important. And when you don't have a good communication with someone, elevate it. Take them to the next level up. Like we're speaking right here in video chat, if I were flushed or my face were red, these are all the high bandwidth communication items you would get immediately for free in person. By cutting all that out, we cut out a lot of the noise, but it's important when something's not noise, elevate that communication immediately. We also have don't assume linear time with your communication. If we're communicating asynchronously, there's a chance that I'm reading emails before I'm reading personal messages. And so I could have had someone write to me and say, here's a personal message about this email. And the problem is, if I'm in a meeting and I read one before the other, then I might get a different perspective. It's totally different than when we're sitting next to each other. We all experience the same linear time. But with these asynchronous messages in remote work, you can't assume that at all. And once you throw that out the window and you're okay with people getting to your message when they get to your message, life becomes a little bit easier, becomes a little bit more friendly. And so if you don't assume linear time, remote work really works. So for remote, enforce flexibility. Someone's dog shows up, or like in the video before this, a cat shows up immediately inside somebody's broadcast. That's awesome. Be flexible about this, especially if they're working somewhere where there's a home or something happens and they have to miss a meeting, or in the middle of the day, they're going to go to the grocery store when no one else is allowed. It's just a great time to beat the crowd or something like that. And enforcing that flexibility gives you the best a person could possibly work. I don't know how many of you sat in a job where it's 2:00, you're tired, and all you need is a nap, but you have to look busy. Remote work kills that. You go take a nap and you come back and you hit it at 110%. That's the power of it. You're effective when you're working. A don't become okay with distraction. So you can go take a nap. Does that mean you take 5 naps a day? No. Does that mean that you have to put someone off? No. Does that mean it's okay to go to a meeting half-hearted? No. You have to make sure that when you're into this, you are always giving it the proper attention it needs, and you're not okay with distraction, but you are okay with flexibility. You can have high goals and flexible methods to get there. That's what this actually says, and that's what remote can give you. So humanity, ask for feedback. We're always better with feedback, right? When we're in remote, you don't find those opportunities to speak nearly as much. So ask for them. Always ask for feedback. Have a feedback survey, have a feedback meeting, have a post meeting. Even if you have to do it for 5 or 10 minutes, you don't have to book conference rooms. Get your feedback. And then the last part on humanity I'll say here is don't hit snooze on people. You can't assume no info is good info. It's easy. The default, the null hypothesis of it is silence so that people can be productive. But if someone's silent for too long or doesn't check in for the day, that's when you have to make sure to go and tickle and make sure people are good. I know that sounds weird. You want to automate that process. You want to have something that sends screenshots of people's work, make sure they're moving their mouse. We've seen people tie their computer mice to an alternating, for an oscillating fan. So it looks like they're working. The automation is silly. Don't do any of this. You just game the system. This is people. This is where we can be people, right? So here, don't hit snooze on them. Reach out. Make sure everybody's doing well. Our CTO actually asks every Monday or so, what's your stress level from 0 to 10? I always think that's the nerdiest thing possible, being a 0-based index for asking that, but sure. And then asks people and lets them know, oh, this is higher than last week. Is there any reason why? This is a great way to work with people when you're working with them in person, but it's fantastic and necessary when you're working remote. So I'm going to throw 5 gotchas at you, just another piece of this. So people oftentimes don't comprehend remote work. So this is a gotcha of it, especially like I was saying, when people are new. Sometimes people hear you say, oh, you're remote working. Yeah, so you've got the day off. And, let's be honest, right now, Facebook has a lot of people at home building bowling alleys for their kids with pillow cushions and fun stuff. Things haven't changed as much, but it's great for our job security for remote work. But what's really important is once you know remote work, you are the regiment of what's going on. But other people like to come in and they just don't understand what it is. It takes a little bit of time, but that's why we can be a little bit compassionate with one another. But that's one thing you got to worry about. Another thing I'll say is that if you used to work there, a gotcha is sometimes people really miss office parties, free office food equipment. They start to see the grass is greener. Another problem that people have is time zones. So for instance, us across the US, that's 4 hours. When is lunch? When is lunch with that? That's the beauty of the asynchronous method for this, is that lunch is whenever you want it to be. If you want to have a 8 a.m. lunch or a 2-hour lunch in the middle of the day, it's okay. Because knowledge workers are judged by their effectiveness, not so much by their time as a butt in a cubicle. And so if that is where you want to go, is a butt in a cubicle, then this isn't for you. If you are a person who likes to get things done and you're working on yourself and you're growing there, then yes, this is a fantastic opportunity. Information's more difficult. We have to work harder to make sure we get information. You can't stand up and shout at the office, say, conference room, 5 minutes. Thank you, Michael Scott. Not going to work here. And then you have to be sure to try to be social with your coworkers, because otherwise it can feel very alone. Some people we have only work. We have one employee in Denver. That's the only one in Denver. Like there's no meetups where that person can go and see a coworker. So we have to make sure we have social events. And we do have tons of social events as a remote working company. So working as a personality with your people, with knowledge workers, and trusting them, that is the lifeline that makes it work. So how do we connect these happy humans? This is the second part of it, right? So I said there's a dichotomy. 1, be as human as you can. 2, actually connect these people. And so we have some really fun ways that we'd like to connect everybody. Just remember, as you go through each of these mediums, sometimes you pick up speed and sometimes you lose speed. Like I said, when I'm on this conference, you're not able to see me, my entire body language, and the slides at the same time because it's a virtual conference. But it's a virtual conference. You didn't have to buy a plane ticket. This kind of thing kind of came to you. So you can connect more people. You can get better information and make sure everybody's more prepared, because there's no such thing as, there's less stage fright because the stage is your office, right? So how do we keep people connected? So I say, take the good on this side, leave the bad. Take the good. In person, we build trust. There's cute meets. You hear people in the background. It's fun. But the bad is like, let's say you're trying to get your heads down, someone can always walk up to your desk, right? People can throw your lunch out of the fridge because it's, got to clean the fridge Friday or whatever it is. And it forces you to have to look productive. In this technical aspect of things, let's get all the good parts. So I want to show you a couple of tricks that we do at Infinite Red. This is one way we have an office. Our virtual office is, has anybody played the game Clue? This is our virtual office. So you can see we have a couple people hanging out by the kitchen, and looks like a meeting was just finished with Derek here in the lounge. And each of these are clickable rooms that go to a particular meeting room. And so without doing anything, I can see who's talking to who. This is the same thing you get in a normal office. So there are some rooms where people should not be disturbed. And there are some rooms where, like, yeah, they're in the billiard room. We can go hop in there and say, hey, I saw y'all were in here. How's everything going? Our CEO notoriously jumps into meetings he is not invited to, just to go ahead and do something silly and leave. And I love that. So that's the aspect that we get here. You could still interact with people. You see that their roll call, just sort of letting you know where they are. No one comes back and does a serious accounting on this roll call. We could do accounting on your effectiveness, but if you're unavailable, this is a nice way to kind of say something. So as you can see here, this is a really cool tool to kind of give it. There are tons of virtual office software out there. We wrote this one. It's not hard. It's a lot of fun. It's a really cool way to sort of create a commune for your remote working endeavors. We also have all team meetings every 2 weeks, whether people like it or not. And dogs, all friendly, just having people interact and have fun. It's key. And we also have a room where it's just kind of a place for us to hear other people and be silly. You wouldn't believe it, but just putting on background noise of a coffee shop can actually raise the energy level of people. It can make them feel like more excited and be able to work longer. And that's why some people go to coffee shops and work, is just to be around that energy. Well, we can produce that. We actually have this silly room where people are all potatoes right here. So I guess if I took a second, let me actually just make it here for myself. I mean, I'm always ready to be silly. See, now I'm a auto-tuning cat. I'm ready to go chat with a bunch of people and have fun. So there we go. That's a button I have right here on my desktop. That's how easy that is. So I'll go back to sharing the screen here. So we have a lot of fun. If you want to know any of these tools, reach out to me afterward. We also have movie watching nights. You have to just come up with ways that people would interact. The company bought everybody Disney Plus, and then we all watched Home Alone. This was a really fun night, and Justin went ahead and took this graphic. We have really fun Slack rooms. There's a couple of blog posts that we did on this, some effective ones and some of the banned ones. I wrote the blog post on the banned ones. If you go to shift.infinite.red, you'll see all of our remote company blogging, and you'll see all the cool different things we could do. Desk raids are fun, where people just step back, no matter what your desk looks like at that given moment, and take a photo of it. We've done a Photoshop round robin, where each person gets to add one thing to a photo and then pass that along. It gets ridiculous. If somebody set the house on fire, add stickers to people's trucks. Now, some people are excellent at Photoshop and adding shadows to faces, while others just dragged and dropped, Mount Rushmore or the Sharknado that's happening. This is always a fun way to kind of keep people's energy up. There's this game called Quiplash, which you can play 100% remote. It's very fun. It's a great opportunity. So you can actually play. We did one, I want to say, like last week, where we just shared my screen. And then also I play this game with friends as well. So coworkers, friends alike, we can have a lot of fun. And then here's our Secret Santa that we did, where everybody opens the gifts at that particular time. It's no limit to what you and happy people can come up with for your particular company, but it's essential that if you're running a remote company, that they see each other as people, that they see each other as a person, and they know about that person. So even in our all team meetings, we get stories about how people are, how they're puppies. This is like the humanity, and this is honestly a great place for me to work because it's the things I care about. I want to do intelligent work with motivated and fun, friendly people, and I think that's the best way that you can get any kind of work done. And once a year, we all fly together to see each other and spend a week together. Because remote doesn't mean you can't be in person, just means you don't have to. So be kind, be creative, and actually be you. And that, I think, is the best way to lead a global remote team. Thank you so much. Oh, don't forget
That was amazing.
Thank you. And
As
there's my
always. I love your presentations. It's actually a good thing I muted myself because laughed out loud at Blockbuster and that ridiculous auto-tuning cat. And please send me that. That speaks to my soul. I deeply appreciate that.
You got it. I actually could probably do an entire talk on the most ridiculous setup I have right here. I have a soundboard with buttons and stuff like that. I wish I could actually show it to you pretty easily, but I'm not gonna lie. I spent like an entire weekend fixing that thing up and getting it ready.
That could be our next talk, just how to spice up your life by Gant. Well, I know that some folks submitted questions and we're getting close to 8, so I want to make sure we get to those. We had a question. Are you open to sharing your slides afterwards, which were beautiful, yes, by the way. Gorgeous.
Thank you. We have, oh yeah, absolutely.
Next one. How do you limit distractions at the house and how do you stay focused?
Well, there is a real interesting hack if people are your distraction. Say, my boss needs this. For some reason, and our CEO told us, he said, you could say I need anything. Just tell me. People respond to that. They understand the authority of what comes through there. So if you are not being distracted and it's another person, say, my boss needs this. For generalized distractions, I think you need to get yourself on a schedule. It's so easy to do anything once you've formed a habit. And I love checking my email and drinking coffee and sort of letting the silliness of, my dreams are like just typing hello to people. I have a real fun walk around the virtual office every morning. I wouldn't give it up for anything. It kicks off my day. So I'd say that the habit of kind of getting into these things is really good. The hardest part then is you have to make sure you leave the office and you have left work because it's home and someone could message you and you feel like you have to message them right then. Think of how it would have been. Is the world going to blow up tomorrow if you don't answer? Nah, don't answer them. Put it on Do Not Disturb. We tell our entire company, go on Do Not Disturb every Friday at 5 o'clock. Do not let us message you and bother you on the weekends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Comment. Definitely, this is from Gary. He'll be speaking tomorrow night. You should definitely tune into this one. Definitely share the tools to make me an auto-tune cat. Gary, I second that. It's just beautiful. Did you build that or is it an app that exists?
I wish that I had built it. It's a combination of 3 things. I have a Stream Deck on my desk. I have Snap Camera on the computer. And I have Voice Mod installed on the microphone so for the setup here. Then what I do is I set up Stream Deck to auto enable both those actions. And then I have a normal button, which brings me back. So I press meow, I turn into a cat. I press normal, I turn back a human. I press glow.
And I am suddenly a monster. This is great for Halloween.
Oh my gosh. That is so great. And we had someone else chime in saying third on the auto-tune cat. Yeah. A lot of fans for your tech setup there. That's amazing.
It really is. We have ridiculous stuff all the time. Our CEO, when he does meetings, He has the same DAC as me, and he's got so many audio clips of silly, fun stuff from podcasts and everything. Or I can't tell you how many meetings have gone sideways to watching a YouTube video because he was like, I got to show you all this.
That's awesome. Another one, are most remote work environments similar?
So, by the definition that I was making, the actual where the decisions are made, and I think that they are all looking for a silly a meme lord. You know, everybody's worked in an office where there's that person who has the funny emails, the animated gifs. It knows like has turned stuff into that. Remote work really thrives on that kind of energy. And so for most of the remote workers I've interacted with, they've always got someone who's doing a custom emoji for their Slack channels and just putting energy into it. I think that that really fuels it. So will they all be the same level of maturity and knowing these things? No. Some people might be just learning, you know, how to not, how to elevate communication. Hopefully a lot of the things that I've talked about here. So I really do hope that they take that. But you might go someplace and they might be 15 years remote and they'd be like, auto-tune cat, wait till you see this, and have like 15 things that could blow me away. So I'd say that, yeah, it depends. The maturities will differ, but I think we're all driving for the same thing.
Awesome. Next guest question, comes from a fellow New Orleanian. Hey, Kevin. When you're working from home, or from your home office, sorry, how do you personally balance life, distractions, especially with a family?
Yeah. So one of the good things that I have here is I've soundproofed my door. I think that what comes in here is the give and take has been learned by my family, and they know specifically that if they need me. So actually, what's funny is we'll find out, hey, is this a meeting that you can eat while you're in it? Is this a meeting where, like, is it just internal or not? So the different types have helped out. And so there's a certain, like, the threshold. It's not like the on-air recording and there's a red light that goes on outside my door and no one's allowed to make any noise. I think what's key here is that we all respect and we're all rowing in the same direction. And I've got a podcast coming up. Can you keep the dogs quiet? Is great, but you know, it's not the same as every other meeting that's there. And sometimes I can take like a wonderful, I'm going to go walk my beautiful daughter around the block. I'm going to take a 30-minute break. So it gives and it takes, and that's how you actually get a good balance, because you and your family control it. And everybody needs to row in the same direction.
Awesome. And the last submission from an attendee, no question, just a comment, outstanding presentation, thanks, from Gwen.
That's awesome.
This has been so great.
Thank you so definitely much. Have me back. This is a great Never. Thank you so much for doing this, inviting me, and then having this information out there for everybody. I think we need more community when things are hard. Don't do hard things alone. That's something we say all the time at our company. And so people who are looking to learn, doing it with everybody and making community like this is really awesome. So please, anything I can do, I'm happy to be back.
Thanks so much again. I'll be emailing you again with the next one. But
I'm in.
Awesome. It was good to see you. I appreciate your time, and y'all for being here for 3 hours. I know it's been a long night. We're really glad that you joined us. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to dive into innovation. First one is going to be, reimagining industry, transformative tech, learning about digital transformation. And we've got anticipating the future of tech. That's going to focus a lot on machine learning and data science, some cool stuff there. Then predictive cybersecurity. And last but certainly not least, immutable IP, authenticating ownership. So it's going to be a very, very exciting evening. We hope you'll dial back in to join us. Again, this is Proximity, brought to you by Tech Talent South. Thank you, Gant, for an awesome presentation. And get some rest. We'll see y'all tomorrow. All right. Good night.